it in. We broke down the door, we came to win. TLA Season 4, it's a whole new game. We the agents of change, whole new scope with a whole new range. It didn't exist, so we built our own lane. We all knew the risk, it's a cold ass game. But first and foremost, we reppin' the fans because we nothing but fans living out our dreams. Crossing the pond with these 32 teams. There's only one road and there's only 5 kings.
Welcome to 32 Kings Road, hosted by the League Ambassadors. I'm Ambassador Kenny Ken, and it is my pleasure to be here today with my brothers. This is episode 72, 32 Kings Road. As a reminder, you can follow us everywhere on social media. Our handle is at The League AM. Also, please check out our website, theleagueam.com. A special shout out to Chief Diplomat Nick Blackman, who has been holding it down. And we've got some special entries that we have. We've got, I'm drawing a blank. Josh. We've got Josh that made some contributions, as well as Mike. Follow them on social media. Flirt Cobain. Yeah.
He dropped another one today.
He did. He dropped another one. He's really just running with this Indianapolis Colts thing, huh?
Yeah, he's going to be disappointed.
We've got a great show today. We've got NFL International Series preview. We're going to check in on this Sunday's matchup between the Los Angeles Rams and Cincinnati Bengals. We're going to have our history discussion about those two teams, as well as check in on the NFL at the halfway point. We're going into week 8, and so we want to do a look back on some of our preseason predictions and see exactly how things are. But first, Kev, good to see you, sir. I know it's late. It's late in the week for us. It's late at night for you, but you are up and committed. What you sipping on at 11:33 p.m.?
Gentlemen, what's up? I'm sipping on what's left of this orange juice when you live alone, you get to do shit that you want to do and not have any regard for what anyone else thinks. So, yes, I'm drinking this orange juice straight out the bottle, but I'm also sipping on a little bit more history this week. October 22nd, but back in 1939, the NBC broadcasted the NFL's first live televised game between the Brooklyn Dodgers, of the NFL. They beat the Philadelphia Eagles 23-24.
Damn, the Eagles been taking L's that long, Kev?
What was that?
The Eagles been taking L's that long?
Listen,
sorry, go ahead.
That's been, 80 years? 70, 80 years? It's been a while. But it reached about 500 TV sets throughout New York, which is crazy to think. I don't know how many people live there now, just how big that market is. But, yeah, we had to start from somewhere, man, and it was this week, that long ago.
Junior Blue, what you sipping on, sir?
You know what? Tonight I don't have anything to sip on. Nothing to drink, water, nothing.
Is it too late?
Yeah, I think it's too late. I'm ready to go to sleep. Nah, but I'm also sipping on the fact that... Hey, I'm sipping on the fact that when will New England ever play a real team? Right now, they have given up 49 points in 7 games. They're less than a touchdown a game on defense.
10 days.
And I am... who do they play in 10 days?
The Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore on Sunday Night Football on NBC. Check it out.
Well, that's what I was sipping on.
Promo
Okay.
Dad.
Promo Dad, you're not free promotions to NBC, to the Peacocks. What you sipping on, sir?
Absolutely nothing because it's late as fuck. But I do want to sip on or give a shout out to E-Dub, my sister. I tried to shout out before, but her birthday is actually tomorrow. Happy birthday, E-Dub. And also just want to reiterate that, travel is important for people of color. We got to get out and about. I just came back from Europe. It is good to be around people. It's interesting to see dark-skinned people speak French and other languages. And some people never leave their block. And it's important to do so because you find out a lot about America, Jack. I tell you that. Good and bad.
He said traveling different.
Well, I don't care how late it is. I'm definitely sipping. I'm sipping on Coke vodka concoction. And I'm also sipping on a couple of things here. We this week the NBA is back in full effect. The regular season began on Tuesday evening. And so I want to sip on that. I also want to sip on the fact that Major League Baseball is coming to an end. The World Series is happening, and it appears as if the Houston Astros season is coming to an end. We will get to that in a moment. But first, I want to ask you guys, in this 2019-2020 NBA season, what are you most looking forward to, Junior Blue?
I'm most looking forward to how the duos, because we off the super teams now, we're on to the duos. I'm interested to see who plays well together, who meshes, who flames out. We might already have one candidate for that, and that's what I'm really looking forward to.
Dad, what you most looking forward to?
I agree. We've been on this super team kick for a while, so it's interesting that the landscape of the NBA has changed. Different ways to watch and look at these games. I'm also interested in the new faces. I mean, obviously, you have somebody like Zion who's out for like 6 weeks, 6 more weeks.
Yeah.
6 or more weeks. Then you have Ja Morant who had his debut. Want to see how he does, and how some of these new teams, whether it's positive or negative, how they fill out throughout the regular season.
Kev?
Yeah, for me, it's how the coaches make these duos and these teams and these deep rosters. How do these coaches in these new situations, these pressure situations, how do they get these guys to gel and play well and devise a scheme that works that can get these guys, get the most out of some examples that haven't seemed to look too well the first week. But I'm looking at of course, Frank Vogel in LA. He's got the egos. He's got the big names. He also has someone breathing over his shoulder already after one game. In Boston, Brad Stevens got Kemba Walker taking the place of Kyrie Irving. Just how that offense with all those pieces, how can they gel? How can they get it together? And then, of course, put it together after the All-Star break and make a push for the playoffs. So we're going to see who's going to earn that check and get the most out of their teams. And this is the best time to do it. All of these rosters have talent that can win championships.
Each of you guys have talked about duos. You've got the Rockets with Harden and Westbrook. You've got the Lakers with LeBron and AD. You've got the Clippers with Kawhi Leonard, Paul George. You got Philadelphia with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons bringing it back another year, adding to the games. Which duo at this point would you say is the best constructed duo in the NBA? Dad?
I'm going to stick with, for the time being, at this particular moment, as I said the other day when we had this conversation, it's going to be LeBron and AD, just for the simple fact that LeBron is who he is. You expect AD to be AD. They play different positions, so that should be. But I think as the season goes on, like I said the other day, I think, and you guys disagree, but I think you got to look at the Clippers and Kawhi and Paul George. You talk about redundancy, but I don't see that being a problem.
Junior Blue?
I actually Lakers with LeBron and AD. They fit well together. Once Vogel learns how to use both of them together, I think it'll be a problem for the league. I like the duo of Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, but there is redundancy. They play basically the same position, and I want to see how they work that out. Do they take turns? There's no true playmaker on that team. So that's going to fall on Kawhi Leonard, probably, somebody who's never averaged more than 4 or 5 assists a game. And now he is the number one playmaker. So I want to see how that works with them. We already know Ben Simmons is not going to shoot threes. All the preseason hype over his
100%.
His one 3-point make. He didn't shoot any last night, and I don't think that's going to be part of his game. So when it comes down to playoff time again, they're going to pack the paint, and he's going to have issues. They're going to have issues scoring again.
My only thing to combat that is you talk about Kawhi averaging no more than 4 assists a game. Kyle Lowry was on that team in Toronto last year, and I wouldn't necessarily classify him as a playmaker, so I think they'll be fine.
Kevin, we've got one game in the books. LeBron AD didn't look too good. We saw earlier tonight, or some of us did anyway, Russell and James have already had demonstrative conversations on the court.
In the second quarter.
Do you agree with your fellow ambassadors that it's LeBron and AD as the best duo right now?
Right now, and now I'm glad I actually got a chance to listen to you ask that question all the way through. I would say right now I would give the nod to Simmons and Embiid because they have the chemistry, the experience together. But I don't think that's going to last that long as Paul George comes back healthy. Because I honestly think, despite the fact they may have similar skill sets and play the same position, the fact that Kawhi Leonard made that team look so fluid, either last night and even right now as they're playing the Warriors, they look like the Toronto Raptors from last year. He just fit in where he needed to fit in. He can play both sides of the ball. Lou Williams is playing out of his mind. And to get another guy like Paul George that can dominate on both sides of the ball, I think that's what takes them over the top of any other duo, is that both of these guys can go for 30 and then turn around and guard the other team's best player. I don't think there's a substitute for that in the NBA. So I think when it's all said and done, not saying they're going to necessarily win the title, but just in terms of what pair of players fit best, I think it will be Paul George and Kawhi.
Shifting real quick to Major League Baseball, the Houston Astros got a fire to put out on two fronts.
Talk about it. Hey, now.
As I mentioned earlier, the World Series has started, and the Nationals have jumped out quickly.
Inexplicably.
To a 2-0 lead, pressure burst pipes. And that is the one thing that I like about baseball, particularly in the postseason, is that I think more so than in any other sport, particularly popular American sports, in the World Series, in the postseason, the pressure is most palpable and you can see it. And so, Astros have some things to figure out on the field, but then off the field, today it was announced that their executive, Brendan Taubman, was fired due to the fact that during his locker room celebration with the team when they clinched the American League Championship, he reportedly turned to 3 female journalists in the locker room in the midst of the celebration and basically did the equivalent of the suck it. Roberto Osuna, a relief pitcher, who was formerly with the Toronto Blue Jays, and the Blue Jays let him go after there were allegations, I believe proven allegations of domestic violence, and the Astros acquired him mid-season, and he turned to the 3 female journalists in the locker room and said repeatedly with emphasis, "I'm so glad we got Roberto Osuna," as if to taunt the women that were in the locker room. And he claims that, he wasn't really focused on the female journalist, that he was just caught up in the moment. Houston Astros were a little bit late in terms of investigating. Major League Baseball got involved, and as it turned out, they ended up firing him today. And so I'll start there with that fire, then we'll move to the fire on the field. Gentlemen, and I'll start with you, Kevin. Was this the right move for the Astros? Because the circumstances, they sound interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, as far as timing, and this may sound bad, but to fire a guy in the middle of a World Series that you're losing is not great timing. But I do think they did the right thing. They did it when it needed to be done. I think the bigger thing, though, is, okay, they addressed the elephant in the room, but then everything that the organization did to kind of silence this woman or throw dirt on this woman's name who put the story out. I want to say her name was Stephanie Epstein. Mm-hmm. Forgive me if okay. But yeah, just all of the backlash that came towards her for just pointing out something that was pretty obvious and that this guy's kind of an asshole. So I just feel like it just goes to show that the culture that, people have been raised in and continue to allow to move forward when you can treat people like this for doing the right thing, especially women in a workplace like professional sports. It just seems like this happens more often than it should. But I'm glad they did what they did. But I think it should be a step further in terms of the way this lady was treated just for doing her job.
Is there a problem, Dad, with Major League Baseball in terms of the culture of the sport? And I asked this question because you have this story, but it was also reported yesterday that a Major League Baseball umpire, a man by the name of Larry Drake, went on Twitter and basically said,
Yeah, he did.
listen, if you impeach my president, I'm going to get my AR-15 and we're going to have a civil war. And this is
2019.
in 2019. This is a Major League Baseball umpire. Does baseball have a cultural problem, sir?
I'm not going to say that it's baseball. I think America has a problem.
Baseball
What's
speaks
more
for it.
American than that?
Apple pie, racism, and I don't know.
Taxes.
Taxes. Yeah. I think that it speaks
That's
volumes.
art, by the way. A-R-T. Apple pie, racism, taxes.
Look
art.
at you. Won't he do it?
Won't he do it?
I mean, I think if you look at it in a baseball prism, then yes. But I think it's a bigger issue.
I mean, compared to looking at the NFL, and as much as we give them, we give the NFL trouble. We talk about the NBA. The NBA's got some China issues, but you look at Major League Baseball, you're like, yo, you seem out of touch.
I mean, they're out of touch for other reasons, but I think ultimately it's a country issue. I think if you just look at going back to the Astros situation, there was actually maybe a couple weeks ago an episode of Blackish, which airs on ABC, where they were talking about
He's trying to get all the deals.
hey, come see us. Because tomorrow it might be different. Tomorrow it might be different, ladies and gentlemen. But anyway, y'all don't feel me on that?
Mike is going to slash your tires.
Okay.
Other
No, but what I'm saying is that they actually had an episode, and it was they split the episode, but it was an episode about feminism and how a black woman fits into feminism in America. And Bo, Tracy Ellis Ross, was going to a feminist meeting, but it was nothing but white people there, and she kind of felt like, oh shit. And then they actually brought back the cast of girls. And then on the flip side,
Girlfriends, I'm with you.
Girlfriends, sorry.
Yep.
And on the flip side, her husband, played by Anthony Anderson, was trying to learn how to deal with the Me Too shit. And he was trying to learn from his kids how you're supposed to deal with feminism and women. And it's like, he tried to open the door for a woman. They're like, what you doing opening the door for a woman? You know, it's 2019. She can open the door for herself. So America has this issue, period. So we're at a part where, granted, dude from Astros is a complete ass. Then you flip it and you talk about the ref or the umpire who's in a position of power, and the majority of the people that are playing in that scope are of people of minority and are of a brown minority, which are demonized within this country. And you take that sort of rhetoric. Yes, it's a baseball issue on its face, but I think it's more so has to do with how this country is dealing with things in the whole.
Watch how I flip this, Junior Blue. Dev's on his CNN now. Sound like you're going to say something, Kev?
Yeah, just real quick. I agree with the points Devin made, but just specifically for baseball, and not to let any other professional league off the hook, but it just seems like compared to the NBA and NFL, you can imagine is they've at least tried to make strides, whether it's for publicity or not, to put women in executive positions, to hire female referees. Forgive me if this isn't the case, but are there any female umpires or executives in baseball? And if so, I don't think they get the notoriety that some in the NBA or the NFL, again, if you can imagine, does do it. So, yeah, I think to a degree, yeah, it is. The Major League Baseball does have an issue compared to the other two leagues in terms of inclusiveness, and especially with women, which is why a story like this doesn't surprise me at all.
Baseball is the good old boys club, and Trump and Twitter has them thinking they can say whatever they want to say, and it's not going to come back to them. Well, the ump found out that it's coming back to him. I know the strike zone for all the black players must have been real large as far as the hitters, because Civil War, if he's impeached, you know what he's about.
Yeah. That's funny. And so, real quick, before we get out of here, are the Astros coming back, Dad? Yes or no?
I initially said that it was going to be a gentleman's sweep. That's not looking too good right now. They're 0-2 going to the National League where they lose the DH. I don't know. Baseball's weird, but the Nationals are the hot team right now. That's normally who pulls it out.
Junior Blue?
I had the Astros in 6, but I don't trust Greinke. whatsoever, and he's going up against Sanchez, who has given up one run.
Anibal Sanchez. That to me was the key in the series. The fact that when they got to that fourth game, and I guess they're bumping him up to a third start. That would be the difference in the series, and it's actually smart. Now think about it, that they're bumping up Anibal Sanchez, which means they're probably going to bring Scherzer back for Game 4. That's nasty. Kevin, any chance that the Astros come back and make it a series? Because I know you picked the Nationals.
I think they have a chance of making a series. They might win a game or two, but at the end of the day, the Nationals are winning the series because DC is 35 minutes for me, 32 depending on what car I'm driving. I'm here for the party, man.
All right, let's move on to moments and Handag. And folks, we're not going to sugarcoat this. This is not going to be a very long segment. We've got a terrible Cincinnati Bengals going to Wembley Stadium, and they're taking on the Los Angeles Rams. This is the third game in the NFL International Series. The first two games were at Tottenham Stadium. And now we have the Bengals going on against the Rams. We've talked about both of these teams before because these are previous participants in the NFL International Series. If you go back to 32 Kings Road episode 4, you will hear us talk about the top 3 players in the history of the Cincinnati Bengals. If you go back to episode 6, we talk about the Los Angeles Rams, the history of that franchise, and we summarize it in one word. And then in episode 9, we actually call out the top 3 players who we felt individually were or have been a part of the Rams franchise. Very quickly, what we want to talk about today is a conversation pitting the two teams. Which organization has had the best coaches? Cincinnati Bengals have had 26 coaches the Rams, the Los Angeles Rams have 26 coaches within their franchise history. The Cincinnati Bengals have only had 10. And, the Rams have had more of a history of winning, certainly. One interesting thing that I do want to point out is that the city of Cleveland is a tie that binds both of these two organizations. The Los Angeles Rams actually originated in Cleveland when they first began in the NFL. They did that for a year. And for the Cincinnati Bengals, they were started by Mr. Paul Brown, who I'm sure is going to come up in this discussion. And as we know, Paul Brown was formerly the founder and head coach of the Cleveland Browns. And when they were purchased by the Modells and they decided to fire Paul Brown said, well, I'll just go and I'll start another team. And it was between the city of Cincinnati as well as the city of Columbus. And he chose Cincinnati to then start the Bengals. I will start with you, Kev. You tell me which organization has had the best coaches and why.
Well, now that I had 48 extra hours to look into this, I am more conflicted now than I was when we first started about. And for me, I look at it's easy to say, okay, this team had won a Super Bowl, this franchise didn't. But for me, as far as coaching, I look at how long a coach can sustain success. And the Bengals have had 19 total franchise playoff wins.
Okay.
The Rams have 20. But the Rams have had almost triple the amount of coaches the Bengals had just to get to that point, even though the average Ram coach probably is fired or leaves within 3 to 5 years like the team does. So, yeah, I mean, it's hard, man. Like, we'll give them, they have Paul Brown, they have the name, but not necessarily the success that come with it. Marv has coached 256 games. Some say 173 too many. It's hard. It depends on, honestly, I think it depends on how you look at it. If you look at a team that sticks with their coaches, whether they succeed or not, or a team like the Rams, where every now and then, they have a year where, they may make a Super Bowl, they win a Super Bowl, go to the playoffs 3 or 4 years. But it seems like after 4 or 5 years, they flip the switch and no guy ever gets enough time to kind of, put his staple on his franchise. So, yeah, I mean, cool. You want to give the Rams a Super Bowl, whatever. But it's really hard to gauge if that's success because of the high turnover every few years.
So that was a whole bunch of, I don't know. Dad,
conflicted.
can you give us an answer, older brother?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. If we're talking strictly about coaching, and as far as I know, and correct me if this has changed over the last 200 years, but the object of a coach is to win a game.
Okay.
To eat W's.
Yeah, to eat the wow.
From the guy who does.
Wow.
Keep it going.
Keep it going.
The Rams have 11 coaches with winning records. The Bengals only have 2.
Okay.
You have some historic coaches that coached for the Bengals, but they weren't historic for the Bengals. So I think if you just look at that, even though they aren't staying that long, if you have to pit the coaches against the coaches, I want the ones with the wins.
Junior Blue, you agree?
I definitely agree. I mean, Cincinnati has one coach with a winning record in the playoffs. The rest of them have no wins. They stuck with Marvin, like you said, 170 games too much. But he was 0-7 in the playoffs. Like, it's just, you got to win something. And they've won nothing. They haven't won it. Even Paul Brown was 0-3 in the playoffs.
Right.
So, I mean, for everything he did for the Cincinnati Bengals, he wasn't it. Their coaches never produced.
So the reason why I think this is an interesting discussion is because when you talk about coaches, yes, you do evaluate wins and losses. But I think we all know that there's a lot that goes into wins and losses besides who the coach is. And one of the things that I think that was interesting to me, that spoke to me, was that the Cincinnati Bengals, even though they've only had 10 coaches, they've had coaches that have made significant contributions to the sport or the game of football.
Fuck all that.
We don't need to. We don't need to talk about. I mean, you can say fuck all that, but
No,
the reality,
but
the reality is that, and this is not even counting Paul Brown, which we know his contributions are, numerous. But one thing that I will say, one thing that I will say about Paul Brown is that his offensive coordinator at the time that he was a coach was a gentleman by the name of Mr. Bill Walsh. And Bill Walsh introduced the West Coast offense, which that offense originated in Cincinnati in 1978. And then when you take a step further, you look at Coach Sam Weish. And Sam Weish was the first coach to actually implement the no-huddle offense as an actual offensive scheme. A lot of teams had used it in end-of-half, end-of-game situations, but he was the first coach, along with his offensive coordinator, Bruce Coslett, to actually introduce it as a scheme, and it was something that led to them having the most success that I think that they've experienced as an organization. In response to that no-huddle offense, you had Coach Dick LeBeau, who was not only a head coach for Cincinnati, but he began as a defensive coordinator for the Bengals, and I believe it was at this point that our podcast from Tuesday flamed out. So hopefully we won't have the same result.
No, we 3 minutes past it. We good.
Dick LeBeau is the inventor of the zone blitz, which was something that he created in response to being able to deal with the no-huddle offense. Yep. So
I give you all that. All that is fantastic.
Okay, Omar.
Hey, what was he doing 2 hours before the show?
I already told you.
No, I mean,
Ken, to your point though, I think, and Devin, I get what you're saying, but I think for those points, I think that the Bengals coaches, although they may not have had the playoff success, far outweigh
regular season either.
Far outweigh the underachievement that the Rams have had.
Their impact. Okay. Yes.
Okay, but the fact that Dick Vermeil, Mike Martz,
if you look at the players
combined have only won one Super Bowl with the rosters they've had.
I was gonna say, look at the players.
Man.
Yeah, the Rams have had more Hall of Famers. I mean, fearsome foursome. We could basically name.
Nobody has underachieved more than Marv Lewis with 0-7.
But the expectations were never as high.
Yeah, and what Hall of Famer has Marv Lewis coached? I'll wait.
Geno Atkins.
That's funny. But again, you guys are proving the point. Yeah, that's why it's hard for me to commit because I mean, they've had successful coaches, but Jeff Fisher, man, the king of mediocrity. Sean McVay, who may not go back to a Super Bowl with the quarterback that he currently has.
He's not.
Again, the fact that Dick Vermeil and Mike Martz only won one Super Bowl during that time frame. It's flat. What's his name? Marvin Lewis would have gotten one ship out of Marshall Faulk, Kurt Warner, Torrey Holt. They would have gotten at least one, maybe two.
Don't forget Isaac Bruce.
And Isaac Bruce, who we cannot forget. The fact that they continue to underachieve.
Not a Super Bowl. Marv don't have a win.
Marv didn't have any help, not compared to what the Rams have had. So I think that it is an interesting discussion, especially because when you think about, impotent franchises, when you think about franchises that have been a failure, they're 0-7 right now. So the Cincinnati Bengals are an organization that comes to mind, but I think there is, number one, something to be said of the fact that, to your point, Kev, and I appreciate you being here with me this evening, that they've only had 10 coaches. So there's stability there, because I think they've had good coaches. Where they've struggled is on the personnel side. Whereas the Rams have had talented players.
Where they're struggling.
Folks, that was 7 good minutes, and that's all we got for you. Let's move to the meat of this show. Let's check in on the NFL. No, not yet. Not yet. We're not going to do the S. Carter collections. We'll get there in a moment. First of all, what we want to do, it's week 8. We want to check in.
We want to check the oil.
We want to check the not changing. We just want to check it.
So check it.
Ladies and gentlemen, if anyone says that they want to change your oil, you need to move quickly.
Hey, especially if he showed up with his own dipstick.
And they normally do.
It's late, folks.
Save it.
It's late. It's late.
We're in the happy hour, ladies and gentlemen.
That's a new segment. We want to check in at the halfway point of the NFL season. We're going to look at each division and see, what's been the biggest surprise to this point, who's been the most valuable player to this point. And then it's a chance for us to have a mea culpa. I know I said this being, it was said at the beginning of the season, but what I really meant to say was, and then we'll get a chance to correct it here at the halfway point. We're going to start in the AFC. We'll start with the AFC West. Dad, you had the AFC West at the beginning of the season.
Yep.
Who was the biggest surprise for you, or who has been the biggest surprise thus far?
The biggest surprise by far is how terrible the Chargers are. 2-5 right now. And I have a coworker who is a Chargers fan. And
Shout out to John.
We talk all the time. And it has not, since when we were on Casio, it's been the same.
Mm-hmm.
They need to fire their fucking training staff.
Yeah, it's the same thing, man.
It's the same thing every year.
We always
with
talk
the
about
Chargers.
injuries with them.
And guess who else is hurt?
Who's that?
Keenan Allen's hurt.
Oh, is that new? That has to be new.
Hamstring.
Wow.
They already have offensive line issues.
Yeah. I think
They don't have any.
Ocon got back. He came
Ocon's
back.
coming back, but they just lost somebody else.
Yeah, no. MVP, AFC West.
Cocaine. And by cocaine, I mean Darren Waller. I mean Patrick Mahomes, who we said is the most important player coming in. He's hurt.
Yep.
We don't know how the Kansas City Chiefs are, but if you're talking about one individual who's shining, who also secured his bag already, we're talking about Darren Waller.
Yeah. All right. I know I said this, but I really meant what?
I know I said
Uh-oh.
that there were 2 teams coming out of the AFC West for the playoffs.
You did say that.
But what I meant to say is I'm wrong. And there is only one.
And that one is?
The winner of the division.
I'm with that. Hey, talk to me in 7 weeks.
Exactly.
Yo, that's a high five, brother.
And they say I'm equivalent.
No, that's real shit.
No, you're right. It's a struggle. Y'all got a shot left.
Hey, listen, and I'm
You
surprised.
saw what the MVP was.
I'm surprised that wasn't your biggest surprise. That this division is a toss up at the halfway point.
No, because going into this season, and if you looked at the end of last year, it was like,
Right.
oh, the AFC West, you got the Chiefs, they're going to be there. The Chargers are legit. The Chargers we said so many times last year, they're the most well-balanced team.
Right.
They have a proven quarterback.
Yep.
They have a good defense.
Yep.
They have pieces.
Good depth
and
chart.
they have
Good
they have
roster.
shit to bed this year.
They've got injuries, and folks don't look now, but the Broncos only 2 games out, and they figured something out on defense. Now they just traded Emmanuel Sanders, and Joe Flacco is quietly moving into the thief category. But we'll keep watching. Yeah, you're right. Just the winner of the division is going to the playoffs, and we'll figure out who that is. Let's move to the AFC South. Junior Blue. Biggest surprise is
Gardner Minshew coming in and keeping the Jags afloat with Nick Foles out. We didn't think the Jags would be good anyway.
I did.
I didn't think they were going to be good.
Yeah.
Less
To
than
lose,
not.
yeah. To think that Nick Foles goes down, they have a rookie come in who was unheralded, come in and keep them afloat. That was the biggest surprise.
Mike Leach is somewhere up in Canada talking about "I told you so." MVP of the division.
Jacoby Brissett. He's
Yeah, man.
second in the league in TD passes. You're coming in following who was supposed to be your second coming, who retired before the season. And, you know,
Mike gonna
he's
bust a
leading.
nut when he hear this.
Don't worry. Because he really bust one next. Then I'm not. Then
The quiet fight.
So Jacoby Brissett, he's doing his thing.
Flirt Cobain, buddy. We coming for you.
Hey, real quick, our neighborhood Indianapolis fan compared Jacoby to Steve McNair, and I hated it when I heard it, but then I've been sleeping on it for like the last 3 or 4 days. And I won't, but he's black, so let's roll with it.
Steve McNair put the Titans on his back.
Yeah,
Literally.
Jacoby is not. Yeah, Jacoby is game manager extraordinaire.
Yeah, he's got a lot of touch passes, but he's only throwing for like 1,300 yards so
Yeah,
far.
he
Marlon
is.
Mack.
When you are if you're an organization and you're like, we just need somebody to manage the game, every single person has Jacoby Brissett in mind. It never works out that way. The game manager ends up being more like a Trent Dilfer, but they have Jacoby Brissett
Fuck is wrong with
in
Trent
mind.
Dilfer?
All right,
But if they turn that 7-9 that less predicted into 9-7 or 10-6, then we having a different conversation.
Yeah, I mean, he ain't got the juice like Steve, though. But sometimes the juice gets you killed. I know I said...
Stop.
That hurt my heart.
I know I said this, Junior Blue, but I really meant to say...
Hey, I know I said the Colts would finish under 500, but they're already sitting at 4-2 with one of their losses to the Raiders. Get that out there to him. And
Flirt Cobain.
but yeah, I mean, I think they will finish above 500. Their division is up and down. You have Houston, who one week looks good, next week doesn't.
Yeah.
You have the Jags. They are starting their rookie quarterback. Nick Foles comes back. He's getting the job back because they paid too much money for him.
You think so?
Yeah, they paid too much money for him. He's getting the job back.
It's a controversy. They selling mustaches and everything.
Yeah,
We'll
that's
see.
interesting.
We'll see.
That's interesting. I'd be curious to see what his cap hit will be. But
It's gotta
okay.
be a lot.
So right now, who you got winning the division? You still got Houston winning the division?
I think Houston comes back and wins it.
Okay. I'm going to fill in for my brother Omar, AFC North. Biggest surprise, the regression of Baker Mayfield. He's been woefully inaccurate, skittish in the pocket, looking nothing like the Baker Mayfield that we saw last year. He's got one read. Yeah, I mean, that I think has been a surprise. And yes, you know, people talk about the offensive line not performing well, and there definitely is some of that. But I think it's more of what Sam Darnold talked about on Monday night. I think he might be just seeing ghosts. They improved the weapons around him without question. Could he be supported with play calling? Yes. But there's been a clear regression on the part of Mr. Mayfield. I think that's been the biggest surprise at this point. MVP of the AFC North, without question. And for Omar, giving him credit, he also said that he is the most important player. He would be the most important player in the division, and that is the Ravens quarterback, Lamar Jackson. No question. You know, he said they would be a playoff team if Lamar played well. Everything hinges on him. And Lamar has performed. He has performed. I enjoy seeing his moxie.
Yep.
He's got the respect and the attention of his coach. You know, that fourth down play in Seattle, that doesn't happen if Lamar doesn't say, let's go for it.
Not with the best kick in the world. No, sit your ass down.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So that alone has made him the MVP to this point, and I would suspect that he will probably end up being the MVP of that division, considering how everything else has unfolded there in the AFC North. Redo, I know I said this, but I really meant to say this. I know that I said that the Bengals would go 5-11, but what I really meant to but what I really meant to say is that they're gonna go 2-14. I don't know what he was smoking. I had a question then. I still have a question now, and I know that if he were here, that's exactly what he would say. The Bengals are absolutely, positively, 100% trash, and are in a legitimate, I dare say, a legitimate competition with the Dolphins for being the worst team in football.
I was just about to say, over and under on that, too.
I mean, listen, because Andy Dalton is still there. I mean, in his logic at the beginning of the season was, A.J. Green's going to come back at some point.
He's practiced this week.
Listen, he's not coming back, though. They already said he's out for Sunday. He's not rumored to come back to November. Here's what happens if you're A.J. Green.
Come back at all.
Say it again, Kev.
I'm not coming back at all, bro.
It's
Le'Veon Bell this shit.
0-7. I'm getting a free year off because I'm going to get money regardless. And I may not necessarily get what I want, but that's where I got my agent to negotiate certain incentives that can put me in that high bracket. And I figure it out a different way because this is a dumpster fire. Kev, you had the AFC East. Biggest surprise, sir.
Without a doubt, the Buffalo Bills. I think they could easily win 10, 11 games this year simply based on their remaining schedule. I didn't think they would be, they'd be playing at this high level. They still definitely have room for improvement, but the fact that they, as of right now, I think they'd be a playoff team. The Bills being there is great because we didn't see anything happen in this division outside of New England.
MVP to this point?
Is Bills cornerback, Mr. Tre'Davious. Yes, that's what his mother wrote on his birth certificate. Tre'Davious White.
Good call.
He is probably the most underrated player in the league right now. And I got a chance to watch a little bit of the Bills games. I turn it off when the offense is on the field, but their defense is playing great, and he is the star behind it. He came up with that the interception and the forced fumble in the fourth quarter, albeit against the Dolphins. It was much better that he made those plays as opposed to not making them. Led to them winning the game. So I think if anybody gets a chance to watch a Bills game, look out for this kid, Mr. Trey White. He's pretty damn good.
I know I said this, but what I really meant to say was...
You too asked me about the worst division, and I said that the Dolphins would win 2 games. What I meant to say was what the fuck I said, and they play Cincinnati and the Jets twice. They're going to finesse 2 games out of this. I feel it in my soul. They don't deserve it, but I think they will.
So...
I don't understand.
I didn't answer shit.
So, yes.
I know what I said, but that's what I meant. I said Dolphins going to win 2 games.
He's just
okay.
repeating. Yeah.
There you go.
Just go with it.
I like your fervor, kid.
Listen, and on that level of wordplay, we now transition into the S. Carter collection, Junior Blue.
All right. This week for S. Carter, we have his song Thank You off the Blueprint 3 album. And this verse right here is saying, I was going to kill a couple rappers, but they did it to themselves. I was going to do it with the flow, but they did it with their selves. I was going to 9/11 them, but they didn't need the help. And they did a good job. Them boys is talented as hell. Because not only did they brick, they put a building up as well. They ran a plane into that building, and when that building fell, they ran to the crash site with no mask inhaled, toxins deep inside their lungs until both of them was filled, blew a cloud of smoke like an L into a jar. Then they took a smell because they heard secondhand smoke kills. Ninjas thought they was ill, found out they was ill. And it's like you knew exactly how I wanted you to feel. This goes out to Mr. Melvin Gordon, who held out on the Los Angeles Chargers to get a new deal, and then shows up and on the game-winning drive, on the last drive, he fumbles at the 1-inch line, and they lose the game. So you want to know why you're not getting your money? Hey,
Thank you.
you did it to yourself.
Thank you. You're far too kind.
Cyberbullying. Hey, real quick, I did want to make a point for our good brother Omar that isn't here. I'm not going to skip y'all on the subject. I do remember now that I look back saying that the Jets will be the other team that will make this division competitive. But the only reason I said that was because during that conversation, Omar also said that the Jets had a pretty good quarterback in Sam Darnold, who went full Haley Joel Osment. So, if anything, I said what I said because of what Omar said, so it's his fault. Let's move it on.
Let's move on to the NFC. I'll start with the NFC East. This was, folks, first of all, go back to, I believe it was our second episode of this season of 32 Kings Road. And I want you to listen to the entire episode, but particularly pay special attention when Red O is previewing the NFC
You can't
East.
miss it.
You can't miss it. It's 15 seconds of dead air, first of all. Then he got bailed out by Sheriff Kevin.
Let me shoot
Wide
you
open,
something.
baby.
Biggest surprise in the NFC East is the mediocrity of the division. I think at the beginning of the season, you know, we expected the Dallas Cowboys to be at the top and to be one of the leading teams. And in fact, they did start out that way, 3-0, and then they lost 3 in a row. We definitely were looking for the Philadelphia Eagles, who probably outside of the New Orleans Saints have the deepest franchise in football. And they've been anything but. You've now got Alshon Jeffrey going straight ghostwriting and shitting on Carson Wentz. We expected the Washington Redskins to be competitive because that's what they've been. They haven't had any significant injuries. Usually they have injuries, and that's what affects them. They hadn't had any significant injuries, but they ended up firing their coach first out of everybody. And we expected the Giants to be what they were, but this division has been incredibly mediocre, and I would say probably the worst division in football.
Yep.
MVP of the NFC East, though, has been Mr. Amari Cooper.
When he plays.
He plays.
When he plays, they win.
38 catches, 621 yards, 5 touchdowns. And that's really in not even 7 games. Really, it's in 6 games.
It's the games they won.
Right. He's balling. And, you know, and I wouldn't be surprised. And I think coming into the season, we assumed that Dak would get paid, Amari would get franchised. But I think it might go that other way because of just how well he's producing, because I could see another team making an offer, making a run at Amari Cooper. He's been the MVP to this point. Red O, I know I said this, but what I really meant to say was, I know that I said that Eli Manning was going to be securing the bag. He was one of his secure the bag nominees. But what I really meant to say was Amari Cooper is securing the bag. And I just want you to know, it's late, folks. I definitely crossed up my notes. The biggest surprise was supposed to be Daniel Jones.
Hey, you know what? Shoot.
Hey, man, it was supposed to be Daniel Jones. I just went with it. Daniel Jones supposed to be the biggest surprise because we shitted on him. Everybody shitted on him. And you know what? He's holding it down. Amari Cooper is the one that's securing the bag.
Hey, and
not
credit
Eli
to
Manning.
Red O, though. I mean, he did say Eli was going to secure the bag. He did. He secured it, packed it, and moved his shit to number 2 on the depth chart. Well, technically, he's right.
He's not incorrect.
Kev, we'll stay with you. You've got the NFC South. Biggest surprise, sir.
It is the Panthers quarterback, Mr. Kyle Allen. Isn't that his name?
Kyle Allen. Yes, sir. Out of Texas.
Man, I definitely didn't see that coming. He's playing well enough to keep this team in the hunt. Without Cam, they're 4-2, undefeated on the road. I didn't expect much from him, but he's proven us wrong.
MVP.
It is none other than the new great white hope, Mr. Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
He's averaging 5 yards a carry, 9 total touchdowns. He's a white running back, not a light-skinned running back, but a white running back. We've never seen this before. And don't say John Riggins because his parents were from the Czech Republic. Technically not white. Christian McCaffrey's white. He's getting the job done.
Eastern Bloc.
Easter.
That's why he ran so hard. It makes so much fucking
It
sense
does now. He wasn't feeling nothing. I know I said this. Let's try it again, Dev. Let's see where he lands. I know I said this, but what I really meant to say was, Kevin.
I know I said that this being an indictment year for Cam Newton would propel him to higher heights. It did not happen. I don't think it's going to happen. Barring injury, I don't think he's going to play again this year, and I don't think he'll be in a Carolina Panthers uniform next year. It's unfortunate how quick this decline hit, but it's there, it's obvious, and it's necessary that the Panthers have to move on.
Wow, that's
Was that dark enough for you guys?
that's gossip worthy.
Yeah. I mean, hey, Devin picked the Falcons to sneak into the playoffs. But
I know.
This was my segment. And I did it.
Devin, you had the NFC North, thank God. Biggest surprise to this point has been.
Oh, that's why you're not here.
Actually, in all honesty, the biggest surprise for me.
I know I said this, but what I really meant to say is.
But the biggest surprise actually is how good the Packers are. Reason being is because I didn't like how the relationship between the quarterback and the coach started. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of smoke in the preseason, but their defense is legit. The offense has yet to catch up, although they had a great game last week.
They did.
But that was...
Who'd they play?
They played the Raiders. But that was a snowball effect.
They got a motherfucker fired, didn't he?
Yeah. But let's see if they can continuously do that. But all in all, they're 6-1.
Say it again.
6-1.
Hey,
Number 2 in the tie for number 2, actually.
They should be undefeated if they didn't trick that Eagles game off 3 times.
yeah.
You can say that.
MVP to this point.
It's Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I can tell you who is not. It's not Mr. Trubisky, who I said was the most important person in the division, who actually still is.
That's a word.
You know, I know where you're going, but
He plays the most important position in the division.
I just think that if
That ship has sailed.
I think that if he were fine, I could never say that he would ever be good. If Mitch Trubisky were fine, I think then we would just be talking shit about Matt Nagy because he's not been great either. And I think if you ask Chicago fans, if you asked Omar, right behind complaining about Trubisky.
I think he's flummoxed because of what the personnel that he has to use.
But he's got the... And I don't want to spend too much time on this. He's got Chase Daniel, who's been in that system, who, when he played,
You traded
not only
up
this year and last year.
You traded up to get him. You got to play him.
And
Okay,
you
but
didn't draft Deshaun Watson.
But my point is that if you've been flummoxed in the system, there's other names. If you've been flummoxed with the
That's
players,
one.
then you go with Chase
just
Daniel.
one player.
Anyway, I know I said this. We know where you're going. But what I really meant to say was, we're listening, Dev.
Chicago's not making the playoffs.
I believe you said they was getting 12 wins.
I did. And they're not getting in the playoffs. And it's not just, to shit on, while he's not here. You have to think about how the NFC looks right now. You got the winner of the East.
Yep.
Maybe another one if the Eagles get their shit together. Probably not. Then you have 3 teams that are contending in the West. You got San Francisco, who's 6-0 right now.
Yeah.
You got Seattle, who looks like a good playoff team. And we don't know what the Rams are, but they're up there. And then you got to talk about the team who I was surprised about, Green Bay, and I'm pretty sure Minnesota won tonight with that trash ass game. Yeah. They're both ahead of them.
Yeah.
So we're talking, and then there's 2 teams in the South that have winning records that are up right now.
Carolina.
That's 9 teams ahead of Chicago right now.
Yeah, it's not
I
happening.
picked these hoes to come out the NFC.
You picked them to go to the. You sure did pick them to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That was a yikes moment.
Yeah.
All right, let's go
now.
to the West. Junior Blue, the NFC West. Biggest surprise to this point has been
San Francisco 49ers, 6-0. Garoppolo.
Shut up, Mike.
Their defense has played great. Their offense, they're running the ball well. Garoppolo's is game managing at best.
If you call that game managing.
At best.
Okay.
So
Listen, we've
biggest
seen it
surprise.
before. Let's not act like we haven't seen a game manager win a Super Bowl. We have
Right.
definitely seen it in the NFL. I don't know if the 49ers, though, are a Baltimore Raven, Ray Lewis,
their
Tampa Bay
defense,
Buccaneer
their defense isn't that,
Yeah.
but they're still the biggest surprise at 6-0.
Yes, sir. MVP?
Russell Wilson.
Huh.
I mean,
Of the whole
of the
thing.
whole,
Of the whole thing.
league. That was easy. I mean, he's almost at 2,000 yards, 15 touchdowns, 1 interception. I
That
mean,
one was nice, though.
it was nice. It helped y'all out a lot, huh? By somebody who might
Been
secure
trying
the
to
bag.
give Russell Wilson
He might
his
secure the
MVP
bag.
for the last 4 years. Hopefully he gets it now.
Yeah.
But no, he's the MVP of the league, let alone.
Man, I wonder. I don't know. I feel like, I feel like we've got to continue to talk about him because being in Seattle, he will be one of those guys who will be beloved in his hometown.
Yep.
But I believe he will not be fully appreciated. And so, to
I
your
don't
point,
know.
Kev, I don't know. To your point, Kev, if he continues to pace, hopefully he gets the MVP this year. But he may never get it just because he's in Seattle, and people will forget just how good you know what they'll say, Deb? They'll say, "Oh, he was the greatest little guy," like in Allen Iverson. It'll be that sort of
Or
thing.
they
And this
ran the ball
guy,
to win.
this
I
guy
don't know, man.
is
You look
killing it.
like I really love the win that we had in Seattle this past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But I've gone on record and said that I don't actually think Seattle's that good of a team. But Russell is that good.
Yeah.
Russell has gotten them to 5-2.
Yeah.
And not too many players in the league you can say that about.
Junior Blue, I know I said this, but what I really meant to say was...
I know I said Arizona was only going to win 3 games this year.
But they have.
told you, man.
But they have. But their defense has stepped up. Their offense has been good.
They play better at home than on the road
exactly.
for sure.
Suggs, Chandler Jones.
Their defense was something I didn't expect.
And they got Patrick Peterson back,
yeah.
and they're at 500-ish.
I don't know if you can call that 500.
Yeah.
Is it 3-3-1?
Yeah.
Or-
Yeah.
500-ish.
Yeah,
Actually, it's
they're
over 500.
500, yeah.
And they got Patrick Peterson
They
back.
had the definition of 500.
All right, before we get out of here, let's get to hot topics. I think the hottest topic in the NFL today is trades. We've got the trading deadline that's coming up here on next Tuesday.
Yannick.
Huh?
No, go ahead. I'm just putting it out in the air.
You speaking it into existence,
Yeah.
huh?
Threats.
We've that's really what it was. We've had already a lot of trades. The Rams have been willing and dealing. They're selling everything. They're selling their souls to get a Super Bowl. And it's the you can't see the forest for the trees because they traded Marcus Peters, they got Jalen Ramsey, they traded for starting offensive lineman Austin Corbett because they got trouble on the line. But they got a
Giving up
quarterback.
everything.
They've got a quarterback that they're stuck with that they've just paid. They don't have any first round picks till Christmas of 2030. So we've got that. We've got Gary and Conley, Junior Blues Raiders traded Gary and Conley. We've got Mohamed Sanu that moved from Atlanta to New England. We've got Emmanuel Sanders that was traded from Denver to the 49ers today. Mr. Bennett, drawing a blank on his name. Michael Bennett was just traded by the New England Patriots. And he was traded to the Dallas Cowboys. Which of these trades would you say is the most impactful? And I will start with you, Kat.
For me, it's Jalen Ramsey. And I just want to see what the ramifications from this will be. And Kenyon, I think you and I share the same sentiment in terms of, so what now? Because although Les did, again, pick him to secure the bag, he's just getting it somewhere else. But I just want to know, how are the Rams going to pay all of this talent? And I understand you selling out to get a Super
Omar has
Bowl.
an answer.
But I'm sure he's at home answering it right now. But I just want to know how they're going to end up in the same position the Rams have always been in. Like, yeah, you sell out to have this good year, and a good year for them has to be winning the Super Bowl. What happens after that when you can't pay the pieces that you need in the game like football? This is not basketball where you get 2 or 3 guys and surround them with whoever. You need a deep 53-man roster, and if they try to pay Jalen Ramsey, Jared Goff, Aaron Donald, Todd Gurley. I don't
These
see
are
how
all
that's
people they've already paid.
So how are you going to continue to do this moving forward? So for me, it's not necessarily the implications for this year, but it's next year moving forward.
I feel a Todd Gurley restructure is coming up.
That's not going to be enough,
What
man.
about a restructure of his knee?
Dev,
He needs a couple of them.
most impactful trade.
I'm along the same lines, but for different reasons. They've given up a lot. Like if they don't win now, then what? They fleeced the future, and that basically means that okay, you're all in on McVay, but then we know what the deal is with Goff.
It's like they don't know. It's like they're blind. And again, it would be one thing if Gurley was Gurley.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'm not talking about nothing. If you want to mortgage the future for a Super Bowl win because you're basically going to ride Gurley and use Goff off of play action and everything else, so be it. You know, in LA, moving into a new stadium, it's worth it. But folks, Les Snead.
When are they gonna get another first round pick?
Christmas 2030. And how are you going to build out the other 45 spots in 2 years?
what I'm saying.
Because you're
The
paying
same basketball.
Because Worth is gonna retire at some point.
Yep.
Junior Blue, most impactful trade.
I hate giving Tom Brady and Belichick another weapon.
You think Mohamed Sanu?
I think
he's
he will be another weapon. We will see end around pass from Sanu.
Yes,
They're gonna
Sanu the
I hate seeing
Edelman.
that.
What? Hey, when
Kev, I think you and I are the only ones that.
Spit out the rest of,
somebody
spit out
got
the rest of my orange juice.
somebody got to keep it on the tracks.
Right.
no, hey, remember when Ambassador Joe was here? Sanu. That boy, good.
The only thing about that, so people, I know, it was a lot of money spent for him. We saw in our fantasy league this week, picking up Sanu. I just know that the Patriot system is not easy to integrate into on the fly.
Again, he's African.
Especially for a wide receiver.
He's African, which means that he's smart.
All right, let's get to the game picks.
He's African. He's smart.
And we'll start with.
Hey, somebody made a move this week.
Hey,
didn't
we'll
they?
start with Dev.
That's incorrect.
Yeah, that's not accurate. But Dev's in the lead though.
I'm
for
in
sure.
the lead.
Dev's got.
That's because Omar was cherry picking.
Yeah,
we saw him.
Yeah, Dev's got like 58, 59 wins.
I
something
went
like
12
that.
and 2 this week, and the only reason
okay.
why I lost is because I went with everybody else.
Yeah, Dev's in the lead. He's in first place. He's stretching out a little bit, not a lot. Les is pulling up the rear. This is an interesting week. Interesting is not a compliment.
Kevin, what they call it? What is it?
It's a pumpkin patch weekend. Go do some shit with y'all kids, man. Don't watch this bullshit.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, there it is. We've got Dev with 67. Red O is hanging tough, man. Whoever is helping him out, man. Listen, he on that Joe Torres train.
No, he started making his own picks this past Sunday.
And as we said, Les is pulling up the rear. This is going to be an ugly week of games. We'll start in Wembley. Shout out to Ryan Ingham. The Inghams. We all love Leeds. Shout out to Fuller's Brewery and Pub. Shout out to Asahi. Yeah, we getting closer. Wembley Stadium, Cincinnati Bengals, Los Angeles Rams. We are sorry, folks in the UK. This one is a stinker. I'm pretty sure everybody's got the Rams. Has anybody got Cincy within 14 points?
No, but if the Bengals win this game,
Right.
I'm listening.
no, I'm just saying if they win this game.
Oh, what it does for the Rams?
Yeah.
Oh,
That
All that
means
shit
what,
we
Sean
just talked.
McVay is 2 years into his 4 years that the Rams get head coaches?
it's the Sean McVay Bowl because Cincinnati head coach Zach Taylor is
Had a cup of coffee with him. Yeah.
Sean McVay clone, supposedly. I'll save the best game of this weekend for last. We'll go to Chargers Bears. I think I just picked it because I thought Red O would be here and we wanted to give him an opportunity to try to explain to us what the hell is going on in Chicago, but he's not here. Chargers on the road with the Bears. Who you got, Kev?
Shit, I was hoping with somebody else first.
It's late for you.
Chicago, fuck it. Y'all gotta give me something.
Chicago?
I'm going with Chicago because of the health of the Chargers.
You know what Chicago means, right?
Funky.
Garlic, stinky.
Stinky onion.
You going with the Bears?
Yeah, the Chargers are a mess. Like I said, Keenan Allen got hurt today.
Junior Blue.
Bears.
I like the Chargers. Trubisky is
It's
trash.
a bum fight.
It's a bum fight.
This is
And
dumpster fire missionary.
And
sex.
shout out to
This is-
Omar for having so much hope this year and being so bears down. We got to change the hashtag to bears down.
Yeah, I feel bad. I do feel bad for him.
I don't.
He's in a tough pickle. Finally, the game of the week, and this is not saying a lot. We got the Carolina Panthers coming off of a bye. Got a winning record, right? 5-2, going against the aforementioned San Francisco 49ers, who are 6-0. The game is in San Francisco. Definitely take the under. I know I don't do this much this season, but definitely take the under in that game. That will be a defensive struggle. But who do you have, Junior Blue?
I have the 49ers at home.
You have the 49ers at home.
I want to see Kyle Allen. That's his name, right?
Yeah.
That's their starting quarterback's name.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what they said.
If it's a lie, they told it.
I want to see him up against a defense and see how, because I don't think they're going to be able to move the ball much.
Christian McCaffrey is going back to his old stomping grounds, Dad.
Yeah, and there's going to be 14 in the box waiting for him
Yeah.
with that defense. I
And
think
he got
it's
some work he need to
I think
visit.
it's San Francisco for the simple fact that I don't know what Kyle Allen, that's his name?
I think so, yeah.
Kyle?
what they call
I don't
him.
know what he's going to do. And defense is still defense.
It is. Kev?
Yeah, I'm going with San Fran for all the reasons mentioned above. But man, this weekend is dumpster fire missionary sex. I want no parts.
It's week 8, so I'm not ready to start gambling yet. So I guess I'll take the 49ers. But I can see McCaffrey scoring. I can't see who's going to score for San Francisco.
The defense.
Emmanuel Sanders.
We'll take Carolina then.
Yeah.
Nah, I take San Francisco. I
got
said,
a choice, brother.
listen. I said it's week 8. We're not ready to make a move yet. It's still early. This has been another episode of 32 Kings Road. Again, follow us everywhere on social media. Our handle is @TheLeagueAM. Follow us on our YouTube channel, League Ambassadors. Actually subscribe to our channel, rate it. Yeah, I mean, have a great weekend. Yeah, go take the kids to pick pumpkins or hunting houses.
It's a great weekend to have a bye.
Go to church. Do something.
Shout out to diplomatic immunity.
Yeah.
Keep writing.
Yeah, we will see you next week. Cheerio.
We busted in. We broke down the door. We came to win. TLA season 4. It's a whole new game. We the agents of change. Whole new scope with a whole new range. So we built our own lane. We all knew the risk. It's a cold ass game. But first and foremost, we reppin' the fans because we nothing but fans living out our dreams. Crossing the pond with these 32 teams. There's only one road and there's only 5 kings.